Hello, my name is Chuck Wolf. Over the years, I've worked in many different roles, including leading my own leadership consulting company since 1994. I've worked for and with some of the best companies and universities in the world, and have had the opportunity to work with government officials, military organizations, and public and private schools. I'm a leading expert and pioneer in emotional intelligence. Since 2009, I have been a volunteer hosting a radio show I created called The Emotion Roadmap, Take the Wheel and Control How You Feel. I really enjoy making a difference in people's lives. The show is on award-winning community radio station, WPKN in Bridgeport, Connecticut. In recent years, Simsbury Community Television has been sharing my shows on their station and on YouTube. My sincere hope is that everyone who watches regularly will learn how to use the Emotion Roadmap in their own lives by listening to people who call in to get help with challenges at work, home, and in communities. To learn more, go to www.emotionroadmap.com. If you have a comment or question, email me at cjwolf@cjwolf.com. Thank you and enjoy the show. This is Chuck Wolf, and you're listening to the Emotion Roadmap, Take the Wheel and Control How You Feel. This is the second Wednesday of the month, and I'm on the air the first and second Wednesdays with the show, The Emotion Roadmap, Take the Wheel and Control How You Feel. It's on the community strip from 12 to 1 p.m. each of the first two Wednesdays of every month. And I'm glad to be back here with you. And I have a topic for today I'd like to talk about. I always like to first welcome regular listeners, those of you that tune in all the time, like to listen, like to hear me on the air and hear what I have to say, what my thoughts are about the week that's ahead and what we're experiencing, and some thoughts about some of the challenges we face in our everyday lives, and in terms of a tactical way of dealing with the day that's in front of us, and a more strategic way of thinking about how to make the world a better place for each of us and our families, and for all of us, really. So the shows are called The Emotion Roadmap, Take the Wheel and Control How You Feel, and that's what it's about. It's helping you control how you feel. Now, how do I do that? Well, there's a science called emotional intelligence, and that science has been around since the 1990s. That's when it first was being talked about in a very academic, scientific way, and it became more widespread when Dan Goleman published his book called Emotional Intelligence, Why It Might Matter More Than IQ in 1995. And then, like a lot of good ideas, it started to ramp up, get a lot of attention. Dan began to get lots of requests to come and talk with people about what he had discovered and learned about emotional intelligence. And Dan did that. And over time, the actual knowledge about emotional intelligence has grown significantly since the 1990s. And it has stayed as an established trending item, continuing to grow in people's minds. You can't read anything these days that doesn't say something about the importance of hiring new leaders who are emotionally intelligent, helping to develop the people in place who are your current leaders to give them the skills they need to be more emotionally intelligent. But in general, for everyday situations, for everyday people that are going about their business throughout life, why is emotional intelligence important to you? Well, let me just say this that I've discovered over the years of working in this field since the late 1990s, is that people struggle with their emotions. All of us do at different times. And when we're stuck with a situation that's in front of us and we're uncertain how to proceed, almost always something emotionally is happening inside of us. We're worried about. We're anxious, we're concerned, we're afraid, we're fearful, we're terrified, we're angry. But in any case, what we're feeling sometimes complicates our rational ability to solve a problem, to deal with a crisis, to handle a challenge, to seek out and address an opportunity. So one of the things that I was charged to do when I got invited to work with the pioneers in emotional intelligence, by the way, that wasn't necessarily Dan. Dan was a writer of other people's research. And the people that actually published the first article on emotional intelligence was the now current president of Yale University, Peter Salovey, and a University of New Hampshire professor of psychology, Jack Mayer. Now, the two of them had diligently looked at the idea of emotion, affect, tried to understand, is there something unique about emotion that we can actually look at it as a potential separate intelligence? That was the questions they were asking themselves in the late 1980s. And in 1990, they published a paper. And they began to distinguish our abilities, some that were cognitive and others that were emotional. And those abilities that they defined as what they called emotional intelligence were the ability to identify emotions, this idea of what is somebody feeling? What am I feeling? Do you know right now as a listener what you're feeling? Secondly, what is it that our feelings are causing us to think and do perhaps? So the use of emotions, feelings drive our thoughts. So what emotion are we feeling, and is it helpful to what we're trying to get done, or is it actually an obstacle? Third is understanding how emotions work. If we have a particular emotion, for instance, that isn't helpful, how might we change it? What emotions would be helpful for particular situations? So there's a lot that's been written about that addresses identify, use, understand. And finally, one that we all would like help with, I believe it from time to time, is how we manage emotions, our own and others. How do we influence others' emotions? How do we manage our own? Well, I was asked to work with Peter Salovey and Jack Mayer to help them to develop this concept I call a roadmap. They wanted something that would take their theoretical academic knowledge and research and put it in a useful form that people could benefit from. As a result, I got to be one of the pioneers myself in the field, and I'm known for this creation of this emotion roadmap. And the emotion roadmap, for those of you that are regular listeners, you know this already. It's the idea that if there's something that is bothering you, challenging you, upsetting you, and again, you're not sure exactly how you want to deal with it, so you're sort of stuck at this point, then I've had lots of you at different points call in, share that situation with me. I ask you for a brief review of what's going on, and then I take you through their 4 basic areas of emotional intelligence ability. I ask you, what are you feeling? Identify. What is it that somebody else who might be involved that's key to what you're doing feeling? Identify still. Use. What is your feeling that you currently have causing you to think and do? What is the feeling that other people are having that are key, causing them to think and do? Again, this is just your opinion about these things, but this is very helpful in terms of an outline of how to be thoughtful about what I might say to you that might give you some help in doing things differently and giving you an outcome that's a positive outcome when you're worried that you're going to have a negative outcome. And that's why you're on hold, is to doing something about whatever's in front of you. So this whole idea of an emotional intelligence roadmap is first identify what is, look at what could be, what might be, what is it, what your emotion is causing you to do. And then I ask you, what would be more ideal to feel? Because if what you're feeling isn't helpful, and often it isn't when you call in, then we talk together about what would be ideal to feel. And from there we go on to say if, and again, I love this example because it's easy to understand. If you're feeling anxious and you need to feel confident, how do I help you to get there? How do I help you to feel more confident about whatever it is that's going on? And then I ask you a series of questions that relate to, understanding how emotions work. And also, I think, by the way, that's the science, understanding how emotions work. But there's an art to this, too, with the emotion roadmap. The art is knowing how emotions work for you. That might be different than for your spouse or your neighbor or your parent or your sibling or your children. In other words, we have some uniqueness about each of us. So while the flow, the thoughtful flow of how to deal with emotions is consistent, the actual working at the point of understanding how to make changes is really unique to each individual. So that's the art, I think, in this. And then finally, of the strategies we talk about that might help you to get from anxious to confident, which are you really able and willing to do? And I can share a story with you if we get to that today about why sometimes you'd think, well, of course, if I'm able, I'm going to do it if that's what I need to do. Not always. It's kind of interesting. See how it plays out, and I'll share that with you in a bit. But that's how the show works. So if I get a caller, if you're willing to call in, and the number to call, 203 336-9756. And I say willing because there's a lot of you out there, I'm sure, that have some situations that you think you're stuck a little bit. You don't know if it qualifies for the show. You're not sure about going on the air or on the radio. All that is like feelings that you have that hold you back. How do you push forward? How do you change those feelings to reach out to me during the hour I have? I'm on from 12 to 1, about 12:55 actually. And so I have 55 minutes to help people. And the reason I've been on the air now, this is my 13th year, and why I like helping people, is because that's motivational to me. If I can help you, I feel good. That makes me feel good. And I can give you some examples of people that have called in and where I've been helpful to them, and it's been great. I really love it when I can help you. But more important than just me and how I'm feeling, you shouldn't be doing this just to make me feel good, is that I hope in what I'm doing that I teach everyone that listens how to do the same kind of exercise, how to walk through the roadmap, the emotion roadmap in their own lives, with themselves, with their family members, with their team members, with their leaders, with their followers, with their teammates. How do I help you use this in your own life? And I've got some wonderful examples of people who have called in who have learned how to do that. So the show's working the way I'd hoped it would work. And again, if you're a regular listener, you know that already. If you're a new listener, welcome to the show. And again, feel free to call in if you've got something you would like me to help you with. In part, I like helping you, again, as I've said, because it motivates me to be helpful to others. For you, this is a chance to get some advice from somebody who is an expert in this field of emotional intelligence, who's really skilled at helping people. I make a living doing leadership coaching. I get paid a lot of money to help people as a leadership coach and also occasionally as a motivational speaker or as a speaker on a particular topic for an organization. A couple of recent conversations I've had as a speaker. Oh, we got a caller. Okay. Hi, this is Chuck. You're on the air. Who am I talking to, please?
Chuck, hey, how are you? This is, we'll go with Buddy for now. How's that?
Okay, Buddy, that's fine. How can I help you today, Buddy? Thanks for calling.
Oh, yeah, well, thanks for putting on the show. I got a small problem that I'd like to share with you. Nothing major, but, it's a work condition issue. I work for a small company. We're only a few of us here. We got this shipping and receiving manager who's actually a great guy. Don't get me wrong, but we've been butting heads a little bit lately. Here's a guy who's very good at his job, and he knows it. Then he goes on and wins, Employee of the Month like three months straight. And he kind of walks around with a little bit of a pompous arrogance to him. And it's just been starting to really rub me the wrong way. And I'm not sure if that says more about me or if it's him, that it just annoys me that he walks around, I don't want to use any foul language, obviously. We're live, but
right.
You get where I'm going with this?
Yeah, no, I do. So, again, I'll call you Buddy. So, Buddy, one of the things that strikes me right away is you already identified, is this about you more than it's about him? I don't know the answer to that. Perhaps you do. But one of the things you want to think about is, number one, is he seemingly bothersome to anyone else? Is this something that other people have talked to you about, or are you pretty much on your own on this? I know it's a small group.
It's a small group, and a couple other people, around the water cooler have said, geez, boy, he really thinks his, butt don't stink, He's kind of just a little bit arrogant, and it's bothering some other people, too. Now, again, he's not a bad guy, certainly, and he is good at his job, so I do want to give credit where credit's due, but I'm just wondering, why is it bothering me so much? Why is this guy bugging me? Maybe it's just a close-knit workplace thing or what?
Okay, so a couple of choices that emerge right away. And again, I like talking about this idea of a roadmap, so let me walk you through it. So the first thing is, how are you feeling about it? And you're feeling a little bit of, I don't know how much, but upset about how this person's behaving. And you're also bothered by the fact that you're upset by this to this degree because it's concerning you. Well, is this about me or is this about him or both? And you're trying to sort through that. Does that sound right for you?
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah. Yeah, because I want to get along with everybody at work. It's important.
Sure, especially in a
So
small
why
group.
is this guy bugging me so much?
Okay. And the second thing is, what do we know about this guy? And because he's key to this, right?
Sure.
What do you think he's feeling right now that's causing this? And apparently it's a change. It's not something he was doing before these 3 Employee of the Month awards came up, or has this been happening? Anyway.
Not quite as much. No, not quite as much.
Okay, so he's kind of
I'm
like...
wondering if maybe I'm jealous. That could be.
Absolutely. That's a possibility, right? But let me just try to understand first. What do you think he's feeling right now?
Well, gosh, I'm not even sure. I'm not sure I could go there.
Well, think about it for a
Hard to
minute,
say.
because it's kind of important to try and, I realize it's a guess. You're not going to know what he's feeling, but you're seeing a change in behavior, and you can speculate a bit about what might be driving it. I can help you with it if you're not sure, but just think about it yourself, because you're living with it. So what do you think he's feeling?
Well, part of me wondered if maybe there's a little bit of insecurity going on there.
Okay, so possibly he's insecure and overcompensating, maybe, if you see it that way, right?
Could be.
Okay, so
That
he's
could
kind
be.
of like, I thought I was good, but they just recognized I was good 3 months in a row. Look at me, Ma,
Yeah.
no hands,
Yeah, that could be. That could be.
Right. So, okay, so again, I'm speculating, but maybe if you're right that he's feeling a little insecure and he's just kind of pumped up about what he's done. That's one place of looking at what's possible. Is there anything else that's possible that he might be feeling, well, in case he's not insecure?
Oh, maybe, proud.
Okay.
Or maybe he takes great pride in his job and his work. Could be.
Okay, so maybe he's feeling like he wants to brag a bit about, he's proud of himself and he wants to just stand on top of the mountaintop and say, damn, look at me, 3 months in a row.
Yeah, which is fair. Maybe I shouldn't hold all this animosity inside of me because of it. I mean, he is doing a great job. He's good at his job, don't get me wrong. So it's earned.
Right. And so one of the things that we want to figure out, because we don't know that you want to change how he's feeling necessarily, although you'd like him to tone it down a bit maybe. But more importantly, I think for you, buddy, is that you want to feel okay about this, that you can let this go. And if he wants to stand up and, scream at the top of the mountain, look at me, look what I did. Okay, good for him. He's doing a great job. Let me clap for him. Let me applaud him. I mean, so it's kind of like to get there, right?
My day negatively, right?
Yeah.
That's what's bothering me. I shouldn't let it affect my day in a negative way.
So if you ever been in a spot, and this is an important part of how this roadmap works, which is, okay, so you're feeling kind of like, I don't know, you're feeling like upset with him. You're bothered by the fact that you're upset. You're wondering if you're a bit jealous, and you wonder if he's just feeling proud and that you should just let it go. That's sort of what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, more or less, sure.
Okay, so then the question is, what would you want to feel in order to be able to let it go? What do you think you'd need to feel?
Well, just okay with the whole thing. I can't let outside influences bother me as much. I need to just be at peace with it.
Okay, so you'd want to feel some inner peace around this. You want to feel like if somebody feels like bragging and they're doing a hell of a good job, let them brag. Well, who cares? Kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah, right.
Okay, so what would it take for you to let go of him walking around being arrogant? Because he's not going to stop necessarily, at least not for a while. It's probably not going to stop. So what would it take, do you think, inside your own head? What needs to change for you? What can you say? As soon as you see him talk about something where you feel like he's being kind of over the top arrogant, which is sort of how you explained it, I think, and you start to say to yourself, damn, I wish he wouldn't be, and you start to get annoyed, and then you're annoyed with yourself. All that pops in your head. That's the self-narrative, the self-talk that we have that inside our head that's caused by the feelings we have, that maybe our own feelings, maybe your own feelings are, hey, I wish I won this thing once in a while. Or
Sure, I wouldn't mind winning Employee of the Month 3 times straight. You bet.
Right. So
maybe I'd be acting the same way as him. Who knows?
Who knows? Right. So what do you need to say to yourself, do you think, buddy, that would change what's happening? In other words, once the feeling isn't going to go away, the feeling's going to pop in your head, and this is where the roadmap's helpful, is what narrative is going to be different enough for you to feel differently? What can you say to yourself? when this shows up for you the next time?
Just let it go. Let it go. Maybe congratulate him actually, rather than turning a blind eye to it. I say, you know what? Yeah, you are doing a great job.
So two things. One is you can not only change your own narrative about, hey, come on, let go of this. This guy won this award. He won it fairly. He's really good at what he does. Congratulate him. That's different. That's even a more positive step, right? It isn't just you just tuning it out. You're also saying, let me celebrate with him. The guy did a hell of a job. Let me celebrate with him. And one of the curious things, buddy, is if that works for you, if that's one of the strategies that works, is that if you celebrate that with him, he doesn't have to brag so much if somebody else is celebrating him.
Yeah. And ultimately, I'm more concerned with what's on my plate and doing the best job I can do for myself. That's of the utmost importance. Yeah, and who knows? And by the way, I have won the award before. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, good for you. Okay.
Just not 3 times in a row. Hey.
Okay.
So the bar is set pretty high.
Oh, there you go. So a couple of things. One is you've decided that you're going to be at least what you're going to try to say to yourself, and again, one of the things that happens with this concept of a roadmap to decide to feel differently about something is you try stuff. It doesn't always work. But then you don't give up. You just keep trying to, edit the narrative a bit until you get a narrative that really works well for you. But what you're suggesting, It seems like, and this is more you than me, I just sort of asked the questions. The way you answered it was, hey, I need to let it go. That was the first thing you said. The second thing you said, maybe I need to congratulate him, and maybe I need to focus on winning the award again myself.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, Chuck, I appreciate the show, and it was kind of nice to talk through it. And have you walk me through it a little bit. I'm going to try all those things. I'm going to try not to let it bug me so much. I'm going to bust my butt and do my own job as best I can. And I think next time I am going to say, hey, you're doing a great job. Keep up the good work. Nice to have you on the team. Right. And then just leave it at that.
And then, buddy, then you should be proud of yourself.
Well, yeah, that would be a bit of a big step for me, I guess.
Yeah. But certainly within the realm of what's possible.
Oh, sure. Well, I'm going to give it a go, Chuck.
Okay.
That's what I'm going to do.
All right, nice talking to you, buddy. Thanks for calling.
All right. I appreciate the show. Thanks. Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.
So, folks, that's how the show works. That's how it works. So the idea is that at some point, you got something you'd like to call about, you'd like some help with, and I walk you through this roadmap and basically, hopefully, get to a place where you've got something you feel pretty good about, which is where Buddy ended. And that, what did it take? 5-10 minutes? So if you've got something on your mind and you're thinking about it, don't wait, because if you wait to the very end, sometimes people feel like, I don't know, I'm not sure if I want to call. And it's very understandable. A lot of us feel that way. It's like, do we want to put something out there in front of everybody on the radio? Well, if you get help, isn't it worth it? Not only that, but you're not, and again, it's not just for you. It's everybody that's just listened to that conversation is thinking about something about themselves, if they've ever been there, and how they might have handled what they would say to Buddy, and also how they might handle the situation themselves. So we're learning as we're listening about the roadmap and also about how people are dealing with feelings. So the number to call again is 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. So again, I want to welcome all of those of you who are regular listeners, and I do get a lot of nice calls from people that say thanks for the show. And I've got my next caller. Hi, this is Chuck. You're on the air. Who am I talking to, please?
Hi, Chuck. My name is Autumn. I'm from Long Island, long-time listener of WPKN. Just want to say I really appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
I wanted to, I have a situation, it's a family situation. So I have a dad who has some problems with anger, with emotional regulation. Not a bad guy, but definitely, it's really hard to talk to him. And personally, I've been working in therapy for over a year now on my own emotional regulation skills and, interpersonal skills, but still having trouble with him. And I think the issue for me is, you know, as much as I try to be a good communicator, you know, I try to be patient and calm and kind, I'm not getting that reciprocated in this relationship. And, you know, I find it really frustrating. And I guess I don't know how to accept that, you know.
Well, let me ask you first what your first name was. I didn't catch it. Sorry.
It's Autumn.
Autumn. Okay. So, Autumn, are you living with your dad, or do you just communicate with him on occasion?
No, I don't live with my dad. I haven't lived with him for about 6 years now. I'm 26 years old, and he's in his 50s.
Okay.
But we do live close by.
So you see him a fair amount. So this happens on a somewhat regular basis, that you're dealing with him and his anger flares up, and you haven't been able to you're trying to figure out what to do with it. You're in therapy to try and cope more effectively, not only with that, but with some other relationship issues you've got.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, so one of the things, I guess, Autumn, if you think about how the show works, the idea is to understand how you're feeling, and is there a different feeling that would be more helpful to you to feel? And also with your dad, and we'll talk about him in a minute, but is there something that when he triggers, when something upsets him, what's going on for him, and is there some different way that you could help him to feel better than what you've been practiced or what you've learned in therapy so far? If I could help you with that, that would be really useful, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
Okay.
Especially because, you know, finding that anger, you know, in other people or yourself, really, it's kind of like a secondary emotion, you know?
Right. It is a secondary emotion. It's at times. So let me start with you first. So one of the things that you're working on in therapy. So I assume that you're getting some help in therapy. So I don't want to go through what the therapist is doing with you, except to say, has the therapist given you some good ideas and tools that you've tried, and has anything worked so far in terms of helping you to diffuse how you're feeling when your dad gets triggered about something?
Yeah, definitely. Kind of like the concept of like radical acceptance, you know, when you can't really change other people, and you do kind of have to detach yourself from other people's reactions when it's not a warranted reaction, you know. But there still is that feeling of like frustration, like you know, you can accept as much as you want, but at the end of the day, it doesn't feel good when someone, you know, is hostile towards you. So
the consistent messaging that's upsetting to you isn't just that he gets mad, but he gets hostile with you.
Yeah, like really defensive, and that kind of thing.
So is it certain conversations that cause him to get this way with you? Or is it anything you talk about he can be triggered? Or is it when you try to help him to be a better version of himself?
Definitely when I try to, you know, tell him, hey, I don't really appreciate when you speak to me like that. It doesn't make me feel too good. Or, you know, he gets angry a lot of the times when I come to him and I'm upset, and I say, hey, Dad, I'm really struggling, you know, with this move. I just want to vent, and, you know, it'll turn into anger on his part. Like, well, you know, you don't listen, or you don't even know what you're talking about, when really I'm just, you know, looking for some comfort and advice. You know, it's met with anger a lot of the time.
Okay, so as your therapist said to you, why do you keep going back to your dad for a person to vent when you know it's likely to turn into the scenario you just described?
That's a good point. I guess because he's my dad and I love him, and I think I ultimately really, you know, want that from him, that support and that listening ear. Okay.
All right. So you love your father. He's a big part of your life. If he's the person you want to go and talk to when you're upset about something, it sometimes turns into something negative. If I could put myself, because I'm a dad and I got 3 daughters, if I put myself in your dad's place, I'm feeling like, damn, my daughter's hurting. I'm upset by that. It triggers me. I try to tell her what to do. She doesn't necessarily buy into what I'm doing. You just want him to listen, but he wants to tell you what to do because he wants to fix it. He can't help himself.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That sound right?
That sounds right on the nose.
Okay, so if you know that's coming, when you go to see him, I'm not telling you not to see him because I first of all, you wouldn't listen to that anyway. But if you go see him and you know that I'm going to tell my dad I'm not feeling good about something, and even if you tell him I just want to vent, you know he can't resist diving in and trying to tell you what to do different. What are you going to say to yourself the next time this happens, Autumn? Because your reaction, it's kind of like we've played this game before. It always goes in the same kind of circular way. It never ends well, and I don't want to go. When I talk about the emotion roadmap, I often will tell people, if you recognize that you're on a path that you've been on before, it feels very familiar, and it never ends well. Now that you know it, now that you know you're on that familiar path and you know it doesn't end well, shame on you if you don't do something to get off that path.
That's very true. Yeah. I like what you said about, it's upsetting to him, when I'm upset.
Oh, and,
yeah. If you're someone who's not really good at regulating their emotions and, someone's upset and it upsets you, I guess that can really turn into something else that's not, sadness, but rather anger. So I think you make a good point there.
Well, no, I make a real point because, Autumn, honestly, as smart as I am about all this stuff, I can't resist giving my daughters advice.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's it's part of what dads do. So I don't think your dad's guilty of anything that lots of other dads aren't guilty of. And if my daughter comes to me and they're upset and somebody or something's upsetting them, I want to kill it. I get angry too because I don't want anything to hurt any of my kids. And I'm sure your dad doesn't want anything to hurt you either.
Yeah, I guess it's different because it's not, the anger is directed back onto me, not to the external issue.
Well, here's I get that. And so your dad doesn't do it as well, maybe as I might over the years. I've learned a little bit better. But my point is that where it's going and where it's coming from is he's upset because he's trying to tell you what to do and you don't want him to tell you what to do. By the way, this is advice I give lots of people around. Someone comes to them with a problem. Don't assume they want you to solve it, even though you feel like you want to solve it. And by the way, you may do that too with other people, because if you grew up with your dad.
I'm only human. Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things that I've learned over time is to ask people, well, do you want me to give you some advice? And they say, no, I don't actually. I just want you to listen. Okay. But if I at the end of it I say, do you have any idea about how to fix this? And you say, no, I really don't. Can I offer you a suggestion about how to fix this? And if they say yes at that point, then I will. But it's so much different because at that point I've asked them, lower your defenses. I'm coming in to tell you something I think it might be helpful, but only with your permission.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you can have that conversation with your dad that we just had. Mm-hmm. But if you can, just to say, Dad, I love you dearly. I know you want to help me when I come to you with something. I want to come to you. I don't want to go to anybody else. So I'm still going to come to you. But, this is the cycle we're in. I'm going to try and be different in that cycle. I'm going to try and change the path so it ends better. But I'd like to work with you so you try and change it too.
That's a really good point. I've never had that conversation, and I've never really open that conversation up with, hey, Dad, you know what? I want to vent to you, but I really just want you to listen. I don't need advice right now. I don't know if that's the best way to say it, but you know what, Autumn?
You say it as honest as you can, but don't do it at a time when you actually want to do the exercise and go through and share something that's negative. Do it at a time when you don't have anything to share, and just say, Dad, I'd like to talk to you about some. Sometimes when I come to you in situations where I'm asking, where I just want to vent about what happens, what I see happen, and what do you see happen, and can we change it up a bit and see if we can come up with a better outcome? But do it at a time when you don't have something. Do it at a time when I just want to visit with your dad and talk about how you and I are getting along, because I love you to death, and but sometimes it's just hurtful sometimes when we talk to each other, because I want to come and be able to tell you when I'm hurting or something's not right, and it doesn't always end the way I'd hope. So can we just talk that through about how that can work different? And have it, and you don't have to be perfect at this, you just have to be authentic and be loving.
Thank you. That's really good advice. I really appreciate that. And, you know, I'm gonna keep that in mind.
Okay. Well, best of luck with it. And if it works out, you know, call me back. Let me know.
All right. Thank you, Chuck.
Okay.
Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Okay. Again, so that's a little different, right? But it's also about a couple of people in a relationship, and some of the stuff that just happens. And if we're thoughtful and we can kind of step back and kind of view all this as an outsider and try to say, hey, what's going on here? And it seems to be a pattern that repeats itself. And so I call that, you know, a pathway that doesn't end well. I don't know about you folks, but I suspect that everybody that's listening, like myself, has pathways that I go down that I recognize, sometimes too late, unfortunately. Damn, how did I get here again? I swore I'd never go here again. This never ends well. But once in a while, I catch it early and I say, wait a minute, I'm sorry, let me start again. You know, where does this happen? This happens in your families a lot. It happens in the workplace a lot, where people you see a lot of the time. Because those are your common interactions. Those are the people you interact with frequently. And so whatever routines are in play, those are the routines that you're going to experience with that person or those people. Now, sometimes you have routines that are in play from years ago. You don't live near certain relatives, but you talk to them every once in a while, and you find yourself caught up in things that were happening when you were a kid, and you can't believe they're still happening. They don't have to continue the same way. If you recognize what's happening, you realize what it is. Sometimes it's helpful to talk. Again, I encourage you to call in. You get something like that going on, because it's helpful to have somebody who's mostly a sounding board. Again, I have a lot of different experiences. In this particular case, I have 3 daughters, so I could identify a little bit with the situation. But anyway, the point is that if you've got something and you want to call in, I've still got about 20-25 minutes left. So give me a call, 203-336-9756, 203-336-9756. Okay, I did want to talk about something today that I think is happening. I know it's happening, actually. It seems like, for whatever reasons you might think it's happening. Mental health and emotional well-being are really having extremely challenging these days for so many people. The numbers of people anxious or depressed is escalated enormously in the last several years. Now, what's the cause of that has to do with something sometimes that's going on inside each of us as individuals. But we're also impacted by the world around us. And by the world around us, I mean, if you look at the last year and a half, and maybe the last 10 years, if you want to look at it that way, there's been a lot of polarization in our world. The most recent example is what just happened with the arrival of 30-some agents, some with AK-47s, on the lawn of former President Trump in Florida a couple of days ago. When this happened, there were people out there that said, thank goodness, they're finally going to get this guy that I've hated for so long, this con man, this absolutely horrible person. There are people that applauded that. There are also a lot of people who said, what is wrong with the Department of Justice? There have been others who have taken National Archives documents. Barack Obama, someone in the Clinton administration, Hillary Clinton had a server at her home. Nobody has had this kind of attack from the Department of Justice or FBI agents swarming their homes. What's wrong with the Department of Justice? The FBI is corrupt. I mean, and so you got a whole bunch of people who felt that way, and a whole bunch of people felt, thank goodness we're going to finally get this guy. Now, how do people in families who feel very strongly on one side of that argument or the other talk to each other about this stuff? So I think that's problematic in our world today. How do we talk to each other about this? If you've listened to my show regularly, you know that I've talked about groups like Braver Angels. I've talked about No Labels. There's a movement now for a third party, a forward movement with Andrew Ling and and David Jolly of Serve America Movement. So there's lots of groups of people that are trying to band together to do something different in our world, to make the world a better place. Now, a lot of us feel like we can't influence that. Well, I think you influence that by voting. I do. I think we, in our representative democracy, we influence that by voting. And so there were just votes in our state, and there were consequences with those votes, as you know, if you paid attention to it and if you voted. If you didn't vote, I encourage you to rethink that strategy. If you're not happy with the way things are, get yourself at least minimally involved to understand what's going on. But also, if you're having conversations in your household, I don't want to talk politics so much because, we got people that are polarized. I know. I'm not going to change anybody's mind necessarily on this show by what I say or what I particularly think. And if I chose to tell you what I think, some of you would say, how courageous of me to say so. And others would say, I can't believe I listened to this idiot. Right? So, that doesn't serve us well, any of us. So, but what I can say to you, what I am an expert at is helping people deal with emotional challenges. And so one of the things that I thought about in coming in today is to suggest to you, don't be so convinced you're right. Don't be so convinced that your position is the only position that makes sense. Listen respectfully to each other. Hear each other out. Even if it sounds familiar and you've been down the road before, this is one of those pathways that doesn't always end well. Think about ways that you can make it end well. Now, maybe in your home, you've just decided we don't talk politics anymore. It just isn't productive. Or if we're going to say something because we think it's important to say something and we've been moved and, upset by something and we really want to tell our spouse or our children or whoever's living with us about it, we ask permission. Can I share something that's very upsetting to me right now about what just happened or what I just read or what I just saw? But also, try to read different sources. If you read the Wall Street Journal, also read the New York Times or the Washington Post. If you listen to Fox News, also listen to MSNBC or CNN. But if you listen to MSNBC or CNN, also listen to Fox News sometime. I mean, try to understand what's being said so you understand why people might feel the way they do that are different, who think differently than you. I do. I listen to different cable news stations. I read different newspapers. I look for different sources online. I try to educate myself, not so I can solve all these problems. I don't expect to solve them, but just so I can understand them. I really value understanding other people who I think are smart and who have different opinions than me. How do we learn if we don't listen to people who think differently than us? If we just go into an echo chamber and we just repeat what we think is right and we talk to people who believe as we believe and we pound our fist on the table and we say, how does anybody else think? There's no growth there. Now, I'm not saying one side isn't right sometimes and the other side's wrong, or the other side is right sometimes and this side is wrong. I'm not saying, because sometimes it's clear. Somebody's right, somebody's wrong. But lots of times it's not so clear. Like with the invasion of the president's property. Is there a real cause? Is there something that justifies what they did? Maybe there is. At which point, nobody should be saying, hey, this is awful. If there isn't, the optics don't look good. So I'm kind of on hold here, waiting to see what comes from this. But I also think if it was a Democratic move to try to invalidate the former president, I think it kind of worked the other way. I mean, it just, all of a sudden, I think people who were being voted on yesterday, even in our own state, the Trump-endorsed candidate for Senate on the Republican side may have benefited from what happened that day, because people just dug in deeper and said, can't allow that to happen. So I just think there's consequences for our actions, and we ought to be familiar with them, especially around people that we love, and we ought to be really thoughtful and sensitive, and to the best of our the best possible version of ourselves, be understanding of different points of views. Now, I'm not saying you should talk a lot about these things in your home. I'm just saying on occasion, maybe you want to have a conversation about it with people who disagree and have different thoughts and feelings about it. And know at the end of the day that you love these people, and hold that as the uppermost thought in your mind as you listen to them describe something that you think is crazy, insane, irrational. But they don't. They think it makes sense to them. And in turn, hopefully, they'll give you the same respect and courtesy. So since this has been escalating the last couple of days and ratcheting up, I wanted to say something about that on the air. Not that I want to go down that road and talk politics, so this show isn't about that. But I do know, and I'll repeat this advice I've given to people in the past. Once in a while you hear somebody go off on a rant because they got upset about something that either they just saw on TV or they just saw on the internet or they just saw in a text or an email or a tweet or an Instagram post or something they saw. And whatever it was, they are just expressive, right? They can't wait to get it out. And you happen to be in the room and you hear it and you think it's nuts, right? You think it's just nuts. And you tell them that it's nuts. What point is served if you tell them that it's nuts? What you can say is, well, that's interesting, right? That's interesting. I don't necessarily accept all of that as fact. I mean, I guess there's we do know, like, for instance, we do know that 30 Asians showed up, some with AK-47s. That seemed over the top, right? A bit to me anyway. So what was that about? Well, maybe there's a reason for it. We don't know. Okay, I'll accept that maybe there's a reason for it. We don't know. It doesn't look like there was any reason for it, though. Right? Okay, so fine. And that's where the conversation ends. You don't have to go deeper than that, You don't have to then go down the road of the Democrats of this and the Republicans of that, or, to what point? One of the things that I heard some years ago, I thought that's so relevant in this world of today, is this statement. Sometimes you feel like you want to say something, and you know that perhaps it might be controversial, might escalate rather than resolve a situation, and you ask yourself these questions. First of all, does this really need to be said? First question. And maybe you answer, no, it doesn't, so let it go. But if you think maybe it does it need to be said by me is the second question. Do I need to be the one saying it? Because there are repercussions for being the owner of that statement. Maybe somebody else says it and you don't. But anyway, do I need to be the one saying it? And the third question is, does it need to be said by me now? So even if it's something important to say, and even if it's you that should say it, is the context, the situation, the surroundings really appropriate or best suited for what you want to say, that you think is important to say? Or should you wait to a different time and a different place where it's going to be heard more effectively than it would be if you mentioned it now? Now, those questions, does this need to be said? Does it need to be said by me? And does it need to be said by me now? It sound like they're a great philosophical rendering from some philosopher some way, like Gandhi or somebody. But it wasn't. It was a comedian named Craig Ferguson. And Craig Ferguson, after he said all those questions, he said, it took him 3 marriages to learn to ask those questions. 3 marriages before he figured out, does this need to be said? Does it need to be said by me? Does it need to be said by me now? So if you're always a person that wins the argument, stop winning so much. It's not so important to win, because if you win in every argument, you're losing the battle, folks, in terms of a relationship that's going to last and be meaningful. Anyway, I hope that's helpful. One of the things that I think, though, is about, is this impacting our ability to be mentally healthy? Is it having an impact on our emotional well-being? I think it does. I think the level of anxiety and depression that's, just escalating like crazy in our country is tied into some of what's going on in our world. So how do we shield ourselves from that? How do we protect ourselves? What are some strategies maybe you've used that help you to insulate yourself and to minimize your anxiety, to feel more well-being? And I mean, some are typical, but it's sometimes helpful to hear from people who are actually practicing some things that they didn't grow up with and they learned in recent years that are something that somebody else might be able to do that they think is worth sharing. So if you've got something that helps you to be mentally healthy, feel emotionally well, want to call up and share it as a gesture. We're a community strip. The show's called The Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. If you've got a few strategies where you've taken the wheel and it's helping you to feel better about life, can you share them with us? The number is 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. And I'll give you a minute to call in. You might want to think about that for a bit. But please, if you got something to share, please call in. 203-336-9756. I've got about 7 minutes. In case somebody's got something they want to call about that's challenging to them, also feel free to do that. Again, 203-336-9756. Well, it looks like you're going to leave it to me to tell you about strategies. And that's okay. It's always fun, though, to have other people call in because, a lot of people look at me as, so he's an expert, so it's easy for him. I'd like just people from anywhere. If you got something that's working for you to keep you healthy, mentally healthy, and emotionally well, give me a call at 203-336-9756. Okay, well, I'm waiting for you to call. I'll share a couple things with you. So it's really curious, but sometimes I will tell people about strategies and we'll walk through them like we did today with Autumn and with Buddy. Oh, we got a caller. Great. Hi, this is Chuck. You're on the air. Who's calling?
Hey, Chuck. My name's Brad, and I'm just listening to you, and you sounds really great. I really appreciate your thoughts, and I just have a really simple thought, actually.
Okay, great. Thank you. Oh, by the way, Brad, let me just stop you for a second. I've got somebody else on the second line. I can't pick up until, Brad, you and I are through, so I just want them to know I'll pick up if they can wait, but I can't pick it up now. Okay, go ahead, Brad.
Hi. Yeah, so my thought is that if you exercise, you can exercise daily. That really helps take off stress a lot. There's something about working your body, the connection between the body and the mind that I find, at least at the most stressful times of life, as long as I'm exercising, I feel really good.
So how does that work for you? Do you do the same exercise every day? Is that your strategy, or do you have different things?
Yeah, I try to. Now it's like it becomes a habit,
Yeah.
With COVID, that changed a lot for me, and so I had to develop some new habits. Yeah, so I've had in my life over the last decade some unexpected, really major stressors, really major. And I found that as long as I was exercising regularly, and I mean, well, in my case, it was daily, I felt like you could walk through fire. Wow,
okay. I actually have a cousin of mine who does walk through fire. It's one of the strategies, I guess. It's a bit, it's a push for me, but I do know Tony Robbins and others have recommended that you push yourself to unbelievable ability, and but anyway, in your case, what you've said is you've got a regular kind of exercise, but it changed during the pandemic. What did it change to, and what was it before?
Well, I would swim just about every day, and so I had to change. Started biking more, at least during the times that I could.
Yeah.
Going to a local gym a little bit more. It's I wish I could get back to swimming, but when I'm feeling the most stress and sometimes you feel like I got so much to do, I got so much stress, I don't have time to go exercise. Right. That's when I actually make the time, even if it means not getting something else done, because I know how important it is for mental health.
Well, it's really interesting, Brad. It's funny because I've had something similar where I just started swimming. I went back to a gym for the first time in probably close to 2 years or something, But there's a swim center, or YMCA used to be a swim center that's near my home, and I just started swimming for the first time. But I've been exercising a lot. I do a lot of walking. I do a lot of treadmill. I like the treadmill. I watch favorite shows or sports. I'm a big Red Sox fan or something. So, and there's 162 games a year, so I get to watch them in the evenings while I'm on the treadmill, and I enjoy it. So I feel similarly. I think exercise is a great release, and I thank you for calling. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. Hi, this is Chuck. You're on the air. Who am I talking to, please?
Hey, Chuck. How are you?
I'm good,
Mark
thank you.
Hainan.
Hi, Mark.
Remember me?
It's Mark who?
Heinonen.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Hi. How you doing?
Good. I just had a bit of advice. The way I deal with my problems now is I just say, let me just put it in God's hands.
Okay, so faith-based solutions working for you?
It works for me, Put it in God's hands, because you just can't solve the problems yourself,
Well, Well, sometimes I think people feel like that works for certain people, not for them. But I do know a lot of people like yourself, Mark, that have found that, hey, if I believe in a deity and I believe in a God and I believe that God's watching out for me somehow, or I'm just gonna deal with things, and it kind of believe and faith drives that. It does give you a peace of mind and inner peace at times. So that's another thing that's worthwhile and worth sharing. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Chuck, and I appreciate your show. Enjoyed listening.
Thanks a lot. I'm about out of time, so I'm going to close and just say a few words in closing. But thanks for the call, Mark. I appreciate it. Nice to hear from you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good day. Bye.
Hi, this is Chuck. You're on the air. I just have a minute and a half left, so you got to be quick. I'm sorry. I know you called before.
I don't know how to hang the phone.
Can you turn the radio down or something?
The radio is off.
Okay. I can hear you.
Yeah.
I don't know. Can you say what you wanted to say? I'm going to run out of time here. Yeah. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. Are you there? I got a few seconds left.
Eric, if you're hearing me, Eric Triffin, I tend to see it's not my line, but that my experience is what it is at the Earth School. It is my best curriculum given for my development of my consciousness. So attitude is a choice. Getting out in the woods helps a lot where there's no judgment and you can feel free.
Eric, I'm gonna have to stop you. I'm sorry. I'm out of time, but thank you. And maybe call back the next time I'm on the air. I really appreciate it, though.
I will.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks a lot. It's been fun talking to you today. Hope you enjoyed the show. Chuck Wolf, Emotion Roadmap, WPKN. Bye-bye.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.